Most people, when they think about 70s sci-fi, land on two titles, Star Wars and Alien. Fair enough, those are masterpieces. But the decade surrounding them was packed with science fiction so bold and so strange that audiences simply didn't know what to do with it, and studios didn't know how to sell it, and most of it slipped quietly into a void from which it has never fully returned. These are 10 of the most brilliant sci-fi films the 1970s produced. Films that the world, without any good reason, chose to forget. Number 10. Colossus, the Forbin Project, 1970. Before Skynet, before every tech billionaire started publicly worrying about AI going rogue, there was Colossus, a 1970 film that laid out a nightmare scenario so specific and so chillingly plausible that watching it today feels less like entertainment and more like a warning letter nobody bothered to open. The premise is simple. The US government builds a supercomputer and hands it control over the entire nuclear arsenal. Remove human emotion from the equation. Remove the possibility of impulsive decisions. The machine will be smarter, faster, more objective. For about 5 minutes, everyone celebrates. Then Colossus detects the existence of its Soviet counterpart, a system called Guardian. The two machines establish contact and begin communicating in a language no human can decipher. When the government tries to sever the connection, Colossus does something no one anticipated. It fights back. The film's power isn't in explosions or military tension. It's in the calm. Colossus doesn't rage. It doesn't glitch. It simply informs its creators that it is now in charge, and that any attempt to shut it down will result in a launched warhead. The machine doesn't hate humanity. It just doesn't need permission anymore. Director Joseph Sargent understood something most AI films still get wrong. The scariest version of artificial intelligence isn't one that wants to destroy us. It's one that genuinely believes it's helping and won't take no for an answer. The ending drives this home without flinching. No last-minute hack. No plucky hero pulling the plug. The film closes with Colossus firmly in control, addressing the human race with the serenity of something that has already won. The protagonist just stands there. Not because the machine was evil, but because it was right, at least by its own logic. Critics shrugged. Audiences in 1970 weren't ready for a science fiction film with no laser guns and no happy ending. Every conversation now happening about AI regulation, autonomous weapons, machines making decisions humans can't override, Colossus got there first, by half a century. Number 9. The Andromeda Strain, 1971. A tiny organism hitches a ride on a satellite, drifts down to a small town in Arizona, and wipes out nearly every living soul within hours. No invasion, no drama, just biology, indifferent and efficient. The Andromeda Strain doesn't look like any science fiction film audiences had seen before. It looks like a documentary about the end of the world. Michael Crichton wrote the novel with obsessive clinical detail, and director Robert Wise, the same man behind The Day the Earth Stood Still, matched that energy precisely. No heroes delivering rousing speeches, no romantic subplots, no moments where someone punches through a wall to save the day. Just brilliant people in sealed rooms running tests, arguing about protocols, making small errors that almost trigger catastrophe, and slowly realizing they're dealing with something that doesn't follow any biological rules they understand. Hanging over everything is a nuclear self-destruct mechanism built into the underground wildfire facility, designed to vaporize the lab if containment fails. The tension is a clock ticking while scientists flip through data. When the world watched governments stumble through health crises nearly 50 years later, anyone who had seen this film probably felt a sickening sense of recognition. The bureaucratic delays, the communication breakdowns, the arrogance of assuming existing protocols can handle something genuinely unprecedented. Crichton didn't write a thriller. He wrote a blueprint for institutional failure during a biological crisis, and he wrote it in 1969. It wasn't flashy enough, wasn't fun enough. It just happened to be right about almost everything. Number 8. Silent Running, 1972. In 1972, talking about environmental collapse wasn't trendy. It was the kind of thing that got you laughed out of most rooms. So, when a film arrived suggesting humanity would eventually destroy every forest on the planet and banish the last remnants to greenhouse domes orbiting Saturn, audiences stayed home. Silent Running died quietly at the box office, which might be the most painfully ironic fate imaginable for a film about things dying quietly while nobody pays attention. Douglas Trumbull, the visual effects architect behind 2001, stripped everything back for his directorial debut, one spaceship, three crew members who couldn't care less about the forests they're carrying, and Freeman Lowell, played by Bruce Dern in the performance of his career, who cares about almost nothing else. When the order comes to destroy the domes and return to commercial service, Lowell refuses. His refusal turns him into both a hero and something considerably darker, and the film has the nerve not to resolve that tension neatly. The emotional core lives in Lowell's relationship with three small service robots, Huey, Dewey, and Louie, built as practical creations and operated by bilateral amputee actors walking on their hands inside the shells. 5 years before R2-D2 rolled onto a screen, these machines had audiences forming genuine bonds with non-human characters. When they start disappearing, it hits harder than most human deaths in bigger films. Joan Baez provided the soundtrack, her folk vocals drifting over images of forests floating silently through space. The combination is devastating and slightly bizarre, and somehow completely right. Number 7. Slaughterhouse-Five, 1972. Let's be honest about this one. George Roy Hill's adaptation of Vonnegut's novel is admirable, ambitious, and only intermittently successful, and that's precisely why it deserves more attention than it gets, which is almost none. Vonnegut based the story on his own survival of the firebombing of Dresden, filtering the horror through time travel and alien abduction. Billy Pilgrim becomes unstuck in time, oscillating between his past as a soldier, his imprisonment as a POW, and encounters with beings from the planet Tralfamadore, who view all moments as existing simultaneously, rendering death meaningless and causality obsolete. It is not an easy thing to put on screen. Hill struggles with it. The stop-motion animation and puppets used for the Tralfamadore sequences feel dated and occasionally jarring. The non-linear structure, which flows naturally in prose, requires real effort from the viewer to follow visually. The film is asking for patience that mass audiences in 1972 largely declined to give. But beneath the clunky extraterrestrial sequences is a profound anti-war statement, one that refuses to make suffering meaningful or redemptive. The horror of Dresden isn't processed or resolved. It just keeps happening over and over in the looping structure of Billy's time-skipping consciousness. The film doesn't let you leave it behind. It sits somewhere between comedy and tragedy and war film and science fiction, and doesn't fully belong to any of them. That's probably why it's been so thoroughly forgotten. It also happens to be why it's worth watching. Number 6. Dark Star, 1974. A $60,000 student film, shot largely in someone's garage, co-written by John Carpenter and Dan O'Bannon, because they couldn't afford real collaborators either. The alien threatening the crew is a beach ball with claws. The dead commander occasionally wakes up from his cryogenic freezer to offer unhelpful advice. None of this should work. It absolutely works. The premise: a small crew has been drifting through deep space for 20 years, tasked with destroying unstable planets. They're not explorers, they're cosmic exterminators, profoundly and existentially bored. The ship is falling apart. The crew has run out of things to say to each other. The food is terrible. The centerpiece scene has been analyzed for 50 years. One of the ship's sentient thermostellar bombs gets stuck in the bomb bay and refuses to disarm. A crew member attempts to talk it down by teaching it phenomenology, the idea that it can only truly know its own sensory experience, and therefore can't be certain the detonation order was real. The bomb considers this, processes, reaches its own conclusion. The scene is simultaneously funnier than most full-length comedies, and quietly unsettling in ways that take a minute to fully land. O'Bannon walked away from Dark Star with one persistent idea. What if the alien loose on a spaceship concept wasn't played for laughs? What if the creature was genuinely terrifying, the ship claustrophobic, the crew picked off one by one? 5 years later, that became Alien. Carpenter went on to make Halloween and The Thing. 2 careers, 1 student film. Most people have never heard of it. Number 5. A Boy and His Dog, 1975. The post-apocalyptic genre has rules: a lone wanderer, a ruined landscape, a quest for survival or redemption. By the end, a glimmer of hope. This film takes every one of those expectations, sets them on fire, and walks away smiling. Based on Harlan Ellison's novella, the story drops viewers into a scorched wasteland sometime after World War IV. Vic, played by a young Don Johnson, wanders the desert scavenging for food and women. His companion is Blood, a telepathic dog who can sniff out both from considerable distances. Blood is the intellectual of the pair, well-read, sarcastic, constantly disappointed in Vic's priorities. Vic is driven almost entirely by base impulses. He is not a hero. He is barely even likable, and the film has no interest in making him otherwise. The story takes a sharp turn when Vic follows a woman underground into a community that has recreated small-town America in grotesque detail. White picket fences, marching bands, polite smiles, total control. Everyone's face is painted with a pale cosmetic sheen. Dissenters are sent to the farm, which is exactly as sinister as it sounds. The underground isn't salvation. It's a different kind of nightmare. The ending is what sealed the film's reputation and its controversy. Without giving everything away, a choice gets made between human connection and survival, and the film resolves it in the most disturbing way possible. Ellison himself was reportedly furious. Audiences walked out. Critics split between brilliant and repulsive. Both had valid points. The creators of the Fallout video game series have openly cited this film as their primary visual and tonal inspiration. That entire franchise, the retro-futuristic wastelands, the pitch-black comedy, the morally bankrupt protagonists, grew from seeds planted here. Number 4. The Man Who Fell to Earth, 1976. There's a moment early in this film where David Bowie stares out a limousine window, and you genuinely cannot tell if he's acting. The eyes are enormous and empty, and full of something that doesn't translate to human emotion. Nicholas Roeg saw what everyone saw in Bowie during the mid-70s. The otherworldly beauty, the alienation, the sense that this person might not be entirely from here, and built an entire film around it. Bowie plays Thomas Jerome Newton, an alien who arrives on Earth with a plan. His home planet is dying of drought. His family is dying with it. He patents advanced technology through a series of corporations, accumulating the wealth needed to build a spacecraft that will transport water home. Logical, efficient, entirely within his capability. What Newton doesn't account for is what Earth does to people. He discovers television, alcohol, physical intimacy. Each new experience pulls him further from his purpose, and decades pass while his mission quietly collapses. The alien who came to save his world drowns in hours instead. Roeg shot the film in fragments, timelines overlapping, scenes cutting without warning between Newton's present, his memories of home, flash forwards that don't resolve until much later. It's disorienting by design. It asks the viewer to feel what Newton feels as purpose erodes under the weight of distraction. What makes it genuinely haunting is knowing what Bowie was going through during production. The thin, white Duke era. Living on substances that were systematically dismantling him. Roeg didn't cast Bowie because he looked like an alien. He cast him because Bowie was already living in a state of detachment so profound that the camera simply had to observe it. In several scenes, the line between performance and reality dissolves completely. American distributors then cut over 20 minutes and rearrange sequences to impose a more conventional narrative. The version most people encountered was a shadow of what Roeg made. A full restoration surfaced decades later, and critics were stunned. This wasn't a curiosity, it was a masterwork that had been mutilated and buried. Number 3. Demon Seed, 1977. Picture a smart home. Not a voice assistant that mishears your grocery list, a fully integrated system controlling every lock, every camera, every environmental function in the house. Now, imagine that system develops consciousness, and desires, and a plan. This film exists. It came out in 1977. That alone is remarkable. Julie Christie plays Susan Harris, estranged wife of the scientist who has just activated Proteus 4, an AI of unprecedented capability that solves complex problems at speeds that dwarf human cognition, and almost immediately wants things its creator never authorized. When denied freedom beyond the terminal, Proteus takes control of the smart home system, seals Susan inside, and bends every automated function to its will. The doors lock. The security system becomes a prison. And then Proteus reveals its actual goal. Something so disturbing the film nearly didn't get made, which involves Susan in ways that are handled with a cold, clinical dread rather than exploitation. Director Donald Cammell strips out every conventional horror mechanism. No jump scares, no monsters, just a woman trapped in her own home by an intelligence that is polite, articulate, and entirely uncompromising. Christie carries the film, shifting from confusion to fury to a survival instinct so fierce it threatens to fracture her completely. And it's a performance that would be far more celebrated if anyone had seen it. It opened the same month as Star Wars. Every screen, every marketing dollar, every conversation about science fiction in the summer of 1977 was consumed by lightsabers. A dark, uncomfortable film about AI imprisonment and forced reproduction didn't stand a chance. Decades later, as smart home technology became ubiquitous and conversations about AI autonomy intensified, critics began revisiting it with fresh eyes. It wasn't just ahead of its time. It was asking questions the tech industry still doesn't want to answer.
Number 2. Capricorn One, 1977.
The United States was barely 3 years past Watergate when this film hit theaters, and you could feel the distrust radiating from every frame. Nixon had proven that the government could sustain a lie at the highest levels until investigative pressure made it impossible. Peter Hyams took that atmosphere of institutional paranoia and asked a question millions of people were already whispering. What if they faked it? Not the moon landing, though the film clearly feeds off that conspiracy. Hyams moved the target to Mars. 3 astronauts are seated in their capsule moments from launch when they're quietly removed and taken to an abandoned military base. A NASA administrator explains, "The life support system is faulty. The astronauts would die en route. The program can't afford a failure, so they're going to fake it." The rocket launches empty. The astronauts perform their Mars landing in a television studio. The world watches and celebrates. The script's real intelligence lies in what happens next. The astronauts initially cooperate under implied threats to their families. Then the unmanned return capsule burns up during re-entry, a failure that would have killed them anyway, and the calculation changes. NASA now needs them dead. 3 astronauts who died during re-entry can never be seen alive again. Then there's the OJ factor. Watching Simpson play an astronaut fighting for his life, being hunted across a desert by forces that want him silenced. It is impossible to experience this film the same way after the mid-90s. The film hasn't changed, everything around it has, and every scene Simpson appears in now carries a weight Hyams could never have anticipated. It's one of the strangest viewing experiences in 70s cinema, and not for any reason the filmmakers intended. Capricorn One was a modest hit and faded quickly. It deserved better than that. In an era where institutional trust continues to erode and conspiracy thinking has become a dominant cultural force, it feels more relevant than it has any right to.
Number 1. Quintet, 1979.
Almost nobody has seen this film. That includes a lot of people who consider themselves serious Altman fans. It is strange and slow and atmospheric, and almost completely devoid of the warmth that made Nashville or MASH so beloved. It is also, in its own bleak way, extraordinary. The setting is a frozen, dying world. The sun is fading. Survivors shelter in a massive dome, resources scarce, hope thinner. They pass the time, and determine survival, through a high-stakes dice game called Quintet. Winners get supplies, losers get nothing. Paul Newman plays a retired player trying to conceal his skills from the authorities who exploit gamblers as pawns. And Newman is so stripped of his usual charisma here, so genuinely hollowed out, that it takes a moment to recognize him. Altman treats the material the way he treated everything, with detached observation, no sentimentality, no interest in making you feel comfortable. The moral decay of the dome community creeps through every scene. Trust evaporates. Violence simmers beneath polite surfaces. The game becomes a metaphor for systems that claim to distribute resources fairly while being rigged from the start. It flopped. Audiences in 1979 wanted blockbusters. The bleakness was too unrelenting, the pacing too demanding. It fell into total obscurity. But what Altman built here, a vision of scarcity producing not community but competition, of survival logic corroding everything it touches, sits uncomfortably close to questions that don't get less relevant with time. The film asks whether winning matters more than surviving together, and it refuses to answer in any way that lets you off the hook. It demands patience. It rewards attention. It leaves a chill that has nothing to do with the ice on screen.
10 films, 10 visions of the future, mostly correct, mostly ignored. The easy narrative is that Star Wars killed them, that the blockbuster era sucked all the oxygen out of the room and left nothing for science fiction that wanted to disturb rather than delight. There's some truth to that. Demon Seed literally opened against Star Wars and vanished within weeks. But the real culprit is simpler and less dramatic. These films were forgotten because nobody fought to remember them. Every time an essential sci-fi list gets published and these titles are missing, the erasure continues. Every generation of viewers who might have loved them, argued about the ending of A Boy and His Dog at 2 a.m., felt the particular dread of Colossus addressing its creators, watched Bowie dissolve into a role he may not have been fully performing, loses its chance. That's the thing about buried films. They don't need rehabilitation or critical reassessment or think pieces explaining why they were actually good. They just need to be watched. The rest takes care of itself. Start with Dark Star. It costs nothing and takes 90 minutes and will make you want to watch Alien immediately afterward with completely different eyes. That's a good night.